I'm going to place a prediction just right here. It's going to stay there the whole time, so you know there's no funny business. And all I'm going to have you do is just say stop anywhere. How about right there? Let's take this card out here, the 6 of Hearts. Now, it's important to note that all these cards are different. You really could have picked any single one. But I somehow knew, had a feeling that you might pick that one, which is why I picked out the mate to your card. 6 of Diamonds. Welcome to the video. If you like magic tricks, be sure to subscribe as I post 2 videos per week. You can also check out my membership tiers for some exclusive content, but for now, let's get into the video. Welcome to one of the easiest and most practical real-world card forces. I have been using this for years for card routines. It's just so simple. It's also very quick. So in a routine where the procedure of getting to the card doesn't matter too much, this is great. This is the Riffle Force. So to begin, you have a card you want to force at the top, and you're going to swing cut that in to the middle of the deck. Now, just a repeat for those of you who don't know the swing cut, you're going to hold the deck in biddle grip. I'm left-handed, just for context. Use kind of a Spider-Man grip to hold the cards like so. And this way you have your index finger able to pull up cards and they're going to pivot off the thumb. So you see that there? I'm holding it at the edges here, and I get to lift cards from the thumb with the index finger. From there, I can push out with my index finger. This swings the cards over. Your subordinate hand, what would be your dealer's grip hand, can come over and you're gonna go deep into it right here. You see kind of right into the underside of my thumb, and I'm clipping it mainly with my index and thumb to transfer it over. And then I can receive it into a dealer's grip. And that is just a way to cut the deck. But in the case of forcing a card, we're going to swing cut in, place down, and we're going to hold a pinky break when we place down. So what you're allowing is the flesh of your pinky to get in the way of the cards, so that way from the back, you have access to the card you've cut in. From the front, you're going to want to be careful to hide that break as much as possible. Now, no matter how good you get at this, there's always going to be some level of discrepancy. I think it's very difficult, in fact, to completely remove it. But one thing you can do to help this is to curl your index finger underneath and apply some pressure. So the version I'm teaching right now is, not only from my years of experience doing this, but we're in a month where we are covering tricks from the Royal Road to Card Magic book. So I'm using notes and details from that book, and this is one of them. Putting that index finger underneath is going to help in removing or concealing that break from the front as much as possible. And you have your pinky here. Placing your index finger here might also be helpful for the procedure, which is to riffle down the sides of the deck. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to riffle down the sides, and you're going to invite the spectator to say stop. Now you'll notice here, sometimes I also just place my index finger on top. And in that case, what I do is I press underneath with it right here, kind of this knuckle. So if you want to do that, you can. It's really up to you. One thing with the Royal Road teaching of it is that you do get a display of the whole front of the pack. But regardless, you're going to riffle down the side with your thumb. So if you're doing this in your left hand, it's going to be this side. Riffle down the side, and you just invite them to say stop. Now you'll notice there I've placed the force card face up, and it's right here. Now they really can say stop anywhere, in my opinion, but in the Royal Road book, they encourage you to time it to where they're gonna say stop just before this card. So if you want to control for that, you want to swing cut fewer cards down, which gives you more play here. So you have a slightly lower spot where that force card will be. Then it's a little bit of timing, you'll get the knack of it, but you're going to start riffling, and you just say, as I riffle down, just say stop. And you riffle down and they'll say stop, hopefully somewhere near and above the force card. This allows you to take a moment, and you're going to truly stop where they said stop. And you say right there, and you're holding down. You can see I'm kind of holding this position. So I still have retained the pinky break here. I'm holding this position of pulling with the thumb down at the actual place they've said stop. All you have to do now is come over with your dominant hand, and we're going to hold things in biddle grip once again. You're going to hold the packet, and you have access here with the thumb. You see how that works? Your thumb is going to grip the genuine spot you're going to pull away from. In a moment, you're just going to release and pull up at the break. And you're going to offer them this card. Some notes from Royal Road they recommend is to come over and slide over rather than pulling up. It might be a subtle distinction in all my experience of doing it. It's just kind of a quick transfer. You go from letting this come together to pulling away pretty smoothly and quickly. It's just a moment. And it's so subtle and quick that to me, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Another thing you can do if you'd like is cover this a little bit as you come away. In fact, in part 4 on the page describing this from Royal Road, that is something they recommend, is allowing it to be completely covered. So if you want to really get the coverage, you completely remove any discrepancy that they might notice. And it's such a quick moment. So from the top, we've swing cut this in, pinky break is retained. You can curl underneath to really keep that front edge as nice and clean as possible. Riffle down with your thumb while inviting them to say stop while you riffle. So you say, just say stop as I riffle down. They'll say stop. You genuinely stop there. You say right there, okay. You come over with that middle hand. Your thumb is contacting the break. Your whole hand, if you'd like, can cover. And you're gonna come away, slide away. And another little kind of nuance that they recommended in Royal Road is to keep that riffle down pause equal to how it looked before. So you had your thumb kind of locked in this downward position before. Keep it there after you transfer to the force card. So now all in motion, it would look something like this. I'd say, all right, I'm just going to have you pick a card real quick. So you know what? Just say stop as I riffle down. Stop right there. Perfect. And it's as simple as that. What is this force good for? Like I said at the top, it's good for quick procedures. If it really matters, there's some tricks in which you actually front load the procedure to be a little more complicated so that it can seem much more free. But in the case of close-up magic, walk around magic, especially if you're going to be creating a lot of magic moments and you're using the force for them, this can really get you in a great situation. But it's also just a casual thing to get the magic moving. So say you're doing something like the biddle trick, which is a great trick we have a tutorial for on the channel. One option for the biddle trick is to peek the card, but that means you have to get the card selected and then go through a peek method. In this case, you've cut out some of that extra steps. So if you already know the card that you're going to be forcing, you just get through the force real quickly, and then you can immediately go into the trick. This is an important move, in my opinion, this Riffle Force, because it just is that practical, that simple, and that usable for any sort of card trick where you need a force. One extra note in terms of angles is that you can turn this inward toward yourself. It's another note from Royal Road, and that will help with your angles. Of course, they're not ever going to be perfect. I hope you enjoyed this one. It really is practical to your card magic, so I hope this helps. Here's how I can force you to choose the 5 of hearts. You're going to use this joker as a way to kind of pinpoint that card. I'm just going to riffle down. You can say stop anywhere you want. Let's say you stopped here. You genuinely place it in at the spot that you said stop at, and yet you stopped right on the 5 of hearts. This is the joker or knife force, as it's called in the Royal Road to Card Magic. We are covering tricks, techniques from the Royal Road to Card Magic. It's a classic of magic, and that's what all the tutorials this month are focused on. So be sure to check back, subscribe, keep looking back at this channel this month for more Royal Road tricks and techniques. And if you've enjoyed this or you've been enjoying this, so this can be done as a force or as a trick, you know, as we've been talking about in other videos this month. You know, depending on your presentation, you can actually take a simple technique, a single technique, and make it into more just by combining some elements of presentation. So in this case, we have the joker as kind of a mechanism, and already that adds some interest. It's not just a boring card trick, you know, you have them involved as well. And then if it's just a force at the beginning, you know, you can then building block that to something else. I've been guiding people to the biddle trick. It's a classic of magic, professionals use it, and we have a tutorial for it on the channel, so check that out if you'd like. But you can do that, or you can actually make it the end of the trick. So I'm gonna talk about both examples, but regardless, you're gonna have a force card. And so the 2 of spades in this case will make it our force card, you're going to place that in the middle and you're going to keep a pinky break. Now a pinky break is where from the front here in this dealer's grip, this is kind of a normal dealer's grip, my subordinate hand, I have my thumb here, index here, and my 3 fingers on the side. Just kind of a normal grip you'd hold the cards with, but now I have a step here where the pinky is kind of jammed just a little bit in so that from the front you can't see it, but I've actually retained the location of that force card. And I'm swing cutting it in. This is called biddle grip. I have kind of a Spider-Man pose here on the top. I use my index finger to come over. I go deep into this hand to peel off, get my pinky break ready, place on top, okay? And then you're watching that front edge. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you're just kind of keeping that as minimal as possible while still retaining control. So you've placed that in the middle, and now you're going to do this riffle kind of procedure, and you're going to say that as you riffle down, you want the audience member to say stop. Now it's important in this force's case, you know, you might be familiar with a normal riffle force already, but we have kind of an added element of illusion here that I think makes this cool. In this force's case, you might actually want to cut a shallow amount of cards, like only a few cards here, so you have a larger packet here, so you have more to work with, all right? That way, when you riffle down, wherever they say stop will be above the break. That's what's important, is that they stop above the break, okay? So we riffle down, they say stop, they get to place this in here. So all this time, you're retaining that pinky break, and you're keeping open where they said stop genuinely. They come in, you invite them to place it in the actual spot they said stop. Now, in the case of any technique, you want to accentuate the strengths, right? So when they say stop, really keep that open, right? Keep that open and show, okay, place it right there where you said stop. They'll place it in, you can kind of release that, and now here's the cool illusion. We have this pinky break here. The card we want to force is far below where they place the joker, but we're going to do this kind of strip out technique that's used in other kind of techniques and tricks in Royal Road. But in this case, you're just going to pinch kind of both sides of the joker as you pick up at the break. So I come over here in kind of, we would call this kind of like a Hindu shuffle position. You grip with these fingers on the sides. This is my dominant hand coming over on the long sides of the card. It's going to then strip out, and the joker is going to be left here right above the force card. And then you can show them their card or have them look at it and memorize it. But there's an added layer of deception here, because it just makes it look so much fair, and this joker is covering a lot, that when you say, all right, just say stop, and they do, they get to place it right in that point. And then it looks so fair that you just say, all right, we're going to just go to that spot. And I've placed this face up so you can see just how subtly that transfer occurs. It's really, really cool. So if you already know the Riffle Force and you just want to keep using that, that's fine. But this kind of adds another element to it that I think is really cool. And you have them placing the card inside. That's to force the card. But what about forcing them to find the card as a revelation? The reason I'm bringing that up is that in one of the other tutorials this month, Royal Road kind of presented it in that way, actually. And so I think that applies to a lot of forces. You can actually not use them as forces for selecting the card, but forces for revealing the card. And I think in this case, it's great because the audience member is kind of finding their own card with this selection tool. So let's say they pick a card. In this case, it's the 10 of Hearts. We're going to control it, and then we're going to cut it in. I think that makes it a little more magical seeming and a little more fooling than just you cutting it in and then having them say stop. I think that's a little too quick and direct and maybe more obvious. So instead, we're going to do some shuffles. We're going to do like an overhand shuffle procedure. So it's going to look something like this. Shuffle it in. Obviously, this is the exposed angle, but that actually just controlled it to the top. So I'm specifically doing the overhand false shuffle from Erdnase here, where you just let the card go down. It's right here. You just let some cards go down as you're holding from this edge here. You then in-jog one card as you peel down, and then you normally shuffle on top. And that in-jog card is going to allow you to come up underneath, connect with it with the thumb. Kind of pushing in helps this as well. And then you're going to be able to come up at the break and place that down so that in motion you have this kind of chaotic looking shuffle. And then as you move into the selection procedure for them to find their card, you can just do a quick swing cut in. So now when they're doing this part, it's like they're finding their card. Have them stop anywhere, place it in, do your switch there, and they have found their own card. If you want to take it even further, if you're doing this with a dating or married couple or something like that, you can have one person select the card and then the other person find their partner's card. That theming, you know, has some power to it. So now it's more than just a selection method. You can actually use it as the ender to a quick trick. So there you go. That is the Joker, or Knife Force as the Royal Road calls it. Just be sure to practice, you know, check those angles and watch your break and see how it looks. And you have this really nice illusion of a seemingly free choice ending where you want it to. This card that they put the Joker next to, truly free choice, and yet it is their card. Welcome to the trick. This is called You Find It from the Royal Road to Card Magic, and we are doing tricks from the book The Royal Road to Card Magic, considered a card magic classic, all this month. So if you like card magic and you're getting into it, be sure to keep checking back. Even if you're more seasoned, you might be reminded of something or see something you haven't seen before. So we're going through a few ways to peek or discern the card, and then we're going through a few ways to force the card. Royal Road is very much a technique book, and then it teaches tricks with the techniques, but it very much is a technique book. And so we're kind of getting our feet wet with it this month. Let me know if you like tricks from this book and if you'd like me to keep coming back to it. So today's trick uses what is called like a sliding key card, but for today it's actually the selection. And so you're going to have the selection picked out. You don't need to memorize a key card. They're going to place it on top, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to get this card transferred to the bottom. Now, what you could do is just overhand shuffle that down to the bottom, but also then pinch and keep it there to do another shuffle. That might make it more fooling, but I think to add a little bit more of a fooling nature to it, what you can do is you can actually genuinely shuffle it into the middle and then in-jog this card. This is the false overhand shuffle from Erdnase that I'm showing you here. And then you shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. You can then pick up at that break. And when you pick up at that break, it's gonna bring the selection back to the top. So all you've done so far is you've taken the selection back to the top, but then you can do that kind of more standard, just peel it straight to the bottom. So once again, that was very quick. Jack of Diamonds is here. Look, watch it face up. We take it down, and then we peel a card, in-jogging it, shuffle, 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 and then we pick up at that break and bring the jack back to the top. That looks like you've shuffled it some, and then you can go further by peeling it down to the bottom. Now it's on the bottom, and then you can do the pinch version there. I like that whole sequence. One, just because I'm pulling from the literature of Erdnase. Royal Road has some overhand false shuffles as well, and he kind of talks about the peeling it down to the bottom aspect. So I'm just incorporating that, but I also really like it because it looks so casual. You know, you're just shuffling the cards, shuffling the cards, shuffling the cards. By that point, you probably don't need to go the extra mile of doing the pinch version because they've seen you, you know, overhand mix it, and it's going to start to create dead air if you go further from there. So I think that's just a great little sequence. But regardless, you can control the card to the bottom of the deck however you want, but if you weren't sure how to, I think that's a great method, and you get kind of a lot of good subtleties out of that that just make it look so casual. Now, before the trick began, you should start the trick out by giving them the Joker, and you're just going to allow that to be a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of foreshadowing, and that's going to set things up for later. So now that part is about to come in. As you reference them to grab their Joker, you're going to kind of do the setup move. So you're going to spread cards over here into my dominant hand. And then I'm going to peel with my underhand fingers here on my subordinate hand this card into place. So that if you're kind of familiar with the cull, it's almost like a reverse cull. And now it's under the spread of cards. Now you want to be careful with this as you're learning to not flash it out the front. And you also want to do it at a moment that is opportune, which is why referencing them like, hey, grab that Joker is going to give you a moment to peel this over and hold it before them. Another thing that, you know, it's kind of performer's blindness you might be having here. From the front, you can accidentally expose this here. So this is one of those where you might want to actually angle down a little bit. And because of kind of how the depth illusion works, even though you can see this kind of exposed here, they might not be able to see that as much from the front. So practice in the mirror, play with your angles, like even if it's kind of poking out the back a little bit, that's better than it poking out the front, because it kind of breaks the illusion of it just being a top to bottom spread of the cards. So again, tell them, hey, go grab that Joker I gave you from the beginning, start your spread, push over with your fingers, and be sure to hold it at an angle that hides that. Now you're probably understanding what's going to happen here. The cool thing about this principle is that as these cards go along, it doesn't matter where they stop you or place a card, you're going to be able to put this card on top or beneath it. So that's just a little something I thought was intuitive. I don't think Royal Road says that directly, but we're going to be able to take advantage of this move to do it. So again, we've set up here, the selection is now the 9 of spades. You're here in this position. Wherever they place the joker, let's say they place it here, you're going to be able to separate at that point and place this above or below. So let's say you're going to ask them, would you like the card above this card or below it? And you can kind of be in this resting position here. If they say above, you can just coalesce the deck and you're good. If they say below, all you need to do is move over to the side a little bit. Look at the difference. This is where you keep it if they say above and you coalesce everything. If they say below, you just move over to the side a little bit. This will go below it, and then you can bring everything together. And this is under the guise of wanting them to turn it over. So you bring it all together, but then you say, all right, look, I don't want to do anything fishy when you've just done the fishy thing. I want you to turn it over yourself. And so you can have them hold the deck and pick up and go below, or you can go right back into spreading it once more, although that might seem a little weird because you've coalesced and then you're bringing it back out. But I think to kind of motivate that, what you can do is you can bring it together, show, now look, I'm not going to do anything. I want you to do this yourself. I'm not going to lift it. And then you can kind of show them those two again, and then they go for the one they said. If you don't want to go through all of that, you can just load the card underneath the joker and tell them to pick that card out. Here's why this is powerful. It's basically a force, right? But you're using the way of forcing a card as sort of a procedure for the audience to find the card. Now it's not just like, here, I've forced this card on you, but they've actually discovered the card they chose, and it's in this really fair display. Like, this is a fair display, you know, when you just have the spread of cards and they can stick a card in anywhere. So I think there's something really cool to that. And it came from a great classic of Magic. So get your deck of cards out, start practicing this sliding key card idea, keep checking back for more Royal Road tricks this month. Thank you guys for watching. So this is the Fan Peak found in the Royal Road to Card Magic, also in Erdnase. Now, unfortunately for me, it's best for right-handed folks. So if you're left-handed like me, you have to get uncomfortable with this because you're gonna start in your kind of mechanic's grip or dealer's grip, or maybe even better, a straddle grip. So this is where I would usually hold it as a left-handed person, but because the method requires it, I'm gonna have to get comfortable holding it in this hand. Now, if you're a right-handed person, this is probably already gonna be comfortable. Straddle grip here, you have the index on top, thumb on the side, your other fingers on the side except for the pinky here at the bottom. That supports the deck when you hold it vertically, which is what you're gonna be doing when you hold it toward the participant. Now, if I had more strength in that hand, I would probably have an okay time dealing over like this, but even in this hand, it is more naturally comfortable for me to deal over cards like this in the straddle grip. It just supports everything. So you're gonna wanna be in your left hand, peeling cards over, and this is regardless of handedness. So the cards are going to be kind of feeding over into this hand, and they can say stop where they want. Now that's how I saw one person perform it on a different project, but they don't have to select it this way. They can just select the card normally, and then you have them place it back inside. But regardless, you're gonna want to be in a position where you kind of have their card sticking out in this kind of pose. So just to belabor this point, in this hand, you have the cards going over kind of like this, where you're pinching them here, your thumb and your 2 or 3 fingers, or your whole hand, whatever, you're pinching them. That's how you retrieve them from this straddle grip hand that is thumbing them over. Or if you did a full spread to then receive the card back, you're spreading it over with your thumb, you're pinching underneath with your hand here on the other side with your right hand. So why do we have to do that? Well, this method is a peek of the index of the card. The index is this part here that has the value in suit. And so you think of the card as a whole thing, but really you only need to ascertain that much to get the identity of the card. And so we're taking advantage of that here. And the method is that as you're showing the card, like let's say it's this card here, you're gonna come over with your thumb, which is in perfect position to peel this over so you can peek at the identity of the card just like that. So we're coming over, we have a card selected, and under the cover of these cards, we're going to push up with our thumb, which allows us to peek at that index. As you can see here, it's just enough of a glimpse, that way you're not bending the card, and then you can place it back down and straighten it out, place it all back together, and then you can even have them shuffle. After doing this to a few cards, you can definitely end up with a little bit of a bend in that card. That's okay, you might even take advantage of that, but for it to not be so obvious, you do want to bend it back in that motion of you placing the card back in the deck. So again, let's say it's this one, you get your peak 9 of spades, you bend it back under the cover of the front cards, and then you're good to go. As far as angles go, you are pretty well covered from this front. You know, you have this kind of screen in front of it. It's really just that, you know, as I do it here, see, even there you can't see that I'm bending it back, but I would be able to get a legitimate peek here. I think from this angle, it looks like they're going to see that bend of the card coming up along this edge. So that is something to be aware of, and you definitely want to practice this in the mirror, but I think you actually have a lot of coverage from this hand here. So thanks to these cards, you're doing pretty good. Now, a little bit of influence from a performer who used this for a marketed effect. I'm not going to reveal his method for the marketed effect, but I like how in his case, he actually, he made note of the fact that there was no markings on the cards. You don't have to do that if you don't want to put that in your head, but because that isn't the method here, it might play to the effect's advantage. So being able to show them, hey, these cards don't have anything that would let me know what they are, and then going into the, you know, procedure of having them say stop or select a card, and then you get that peek and you go into it. And then the fact that you're able to immediately let them shuffle, that's pretty dang awesome. And I like how fair this looks. Like, this looks like a normal procedure, right? Spread cards, poke one card up and say, just memorize that card and place it back in. In this case too, it's almost even more impressive that they don't take the card out and reinsert it, because that can have kind of implications for like, oh, maybe the magician is controlling the card. So the fact that it only barely peeks out and then you place it back in and have them shuffle, there's something that you can actually make more fair feeling out of it if you do go with that procedure of having them just say stop or touch a card, and then you go back in and give it to them immediately to shuffle. So how would that look like in a trick? Well, like I said, maybe having them start by shuffling. You can mention the fact that these are not marked if you would like, and you're going to accentuate the fact that you're not taking a look at the cards. You're saying that you're looking away, and so you can turn your head to the side as they say stop or touch one. When they touch one, by necessity, it's going to feel natural for you to look at them, but they've been given the promise and you're still behind these cards. And so as you're behind them, you can get that peek. I can see the 4 of hearts here as the performer, bend that back, place it inside, and that's all as you're just inviting them. Make sure they memorize that card, immediately give it to them to shuffle. They can shuffle the cards, and then you can go into a mind reading procedure. One fun thing to do is to like gradually eliminate cards, and then, you know, you go down to like a final 2 or something and you show them their card, anything you want. You can write the card down. It's a peek. So that's how you put it into a trick, is by you're going to move to some form of revelation. There's also other tricks that this is really helpful for, like the biddle trick. Be sure to check out the biddle trick tutorial on this channel, because it does require you to know the name of the card. And so this could go right into that pretty dang well. Just want to give a warning, after you do this several times, your deck might look like this. So it's definitely something to be aware of, and might make you pause as to whether you are going to be doing this constantly. But I do think the principle at play is really cool here, and you do get this really fair display of the card, and then they can shuffle the deck. So don't let this scare you, just do be aware of how it can affect your cards. The audience member selects a card. You never see this card. They then place it back inside a spread. That's something that would be really hard for a magician who's usually trying to use a control. They place it back into the spread, and you truly close the spread around the card without controlling it. Audience can even cut the deck, and yet despite all those parameters, you're able to discern which card they chose. Welcome to the video. If you like magic content like this, I post 2 videos a week, so be sure to subscribe to learn more magic. I hope you enjoy learning this trick. Let's get into it. Welcome to the sliding key card. Now, just to define that real quickly, this is a key card trick. Now, a key card trick is where you memorize maybe like the bottom card. So like they select a card, you memorize the bottom card real quick, they place it back, and you cut it into the deck. You don't know their card yet, but you know that the 4 of hearts is your key card. They can even cut the deck again, but as long as those stay together, you'll be able to discern that the 3 of diamonds is their card. And there's a lot of tricks that use that. Today's trick is going to use that idea, but the sliding idea is the fact that you're actually going to be able to move your key card around and place it next to where the audience member themselves put their card back into the deck. So I just think that increases the power of this. This is once again from the Royal Road to Card Magic. It's a classic of Magic. And so here is how that will look. It's very simple. You're gonna have the audience member select a card, and then when you spread the cards for them to place it back, you're actually going to slide that key card into place. So remember from the top, you just want to take a quick peek at the bottom card while they're looking at their selection. While all attention is on here, just give a quick and casual peek of the card. I like to do it this way. Now I'm a lefty, so for me to get that top corner, that's how I have to do it. If you're a righty, you might even be able to be a little more secret by getting the inner corner. But let me know in the comments below, if you're a righty, what's the most casual way that you get that bottom corner peek? Ultimately, I think it doesn't super matter as long as you're casual and as long as you've had them really memorize this card so that you can get that peek. So you've gotten that peek, and then here, you're gonna spread the cards for them to place their card back. Once you're kind of in this position here, you're then gonna slide this card over. So you see that? So now this is literally, as the name suggests, a sliding key card. So you're gonna wanna make sure your angles are good here. So first of all, in terms of technique, I have it in the straddle grip in my subordinate hand. This is gonna help me keep cards from, falling around too much, as opposed to just a dealer's grip, right? And then with your dominant hand, as you're pulling cards over, I like to have a deep grip into the thumb. So as you can see here, and then I'm basically pinching. This allows you to hold and stabilize all these cards over here. So whether you're doing it from this hand as a righty or from this hand as a lefty, that's kind of the technique of a simple card spread. From there, once you have a good spread of cards out, you can push over mainly with these 2 fingers. The index is here as well, but you're gonna push over and kind of get it into place where now wherever they kind of put the card in, this moving key card is gonna be able to go above or below it. So that's the idea. Now you can have a little bit of performer's blindness here if you're not careful. There's certain moves that actually look quote unquote better for you as the performer, and meanwhile you don't know that your audience can see everything you're doing. This is one of them. If it is too flat on, they might see this kind of hanging card or this discrepant card. Of course, from above, they'll definitely see it if you let it poke out the front, but you also want to angle it more downward toward them so that they don't see underneath the cards. So you do want to be aware of that. But now wherever they place this card back in, let's say they placed it right here, you can now let that key card end up above, just like that. And it's just by squaring up the cards, it'll end up above it. Or you can also have it end up below it. So to have it end up below it, I have a new key card here of the 7 of hearts. Let's say they place the card back in here. Instead of going straight on, you can see it right here. We're gonna just let it peek below the card, and that's just by letting it come in just like that. It might actually feel easier than to place it above because you're just kind of with the right pressure placing everything together, and then you let those cards come together. Now here's what's really cool. They've selected a card that you haven't looked at. You've placed it back in the deck. You can let them cut the deck. I wouldn't encourage shuffling. Some magicians are more bold and they kind of have ways that they can avoid the key card getting separated. But for simplicity's sake, I think just a simple extra cut is great. And the way you can frame that is saying, all right, I want you to place it back anywhere you want. And when they place it back and you've loaded the key card there, really focus attention of that of like, look, it's really going to go back in the exact spot you said. In fact, you want to give it an extra cut. And that just makes the feeling of freedom and control so much more. I forgot to mention, and I had to come back and add this little clip here, loading the card above, like the 6 of spades here, means that when they're face up, their card is going to be above the 6 of spades, right? Now, if you load it below, that means once you see the 6 of spades, the next card is theirs. It's just up to your preference. And then based on certain tricks, you can take advantage of that either way. But I just wanted to add that really quickly. So now let's say you've memorized the 7 of clubs and they've placed their card in and you've used that method. Now, when you look at the cards and you've spread them, you're going to see that their card is the 5 of spades. You can go into any trick from here. I've been referencing the Biddle trick this month as a great trick for either forces or peaks to go into. It's a classic of Magic, professionals use it. We have a tutorial for that on the channel if you want to check it out. But you could also just kind of do a more gradual elimination sequence, and you can really ham this up. You know, for all intents and purposes, you should not know the card. And so you can kind of eliminate some from the top as you're kind of looking at them, trying to get a feel for them, eliminate some from the bottom, and just work your way down maybe to like a final two, right? Like you've ended up here, and you can act like you're about to choose this one. I'm kind of thinking of a Daniel Madison trick he did on Penn and Teller, and then you go with the one that they picked. Just by adding more drama to it, that's now a full trick. You know, you had this really fair procedure where you didn't seem to. Thanks for watching. If you want more, you can check out the membership for some exclusive content. Pick up some merch from the Magic merch store. I also have a journal for magicians. You can check out all those links below. And if you want more free content, check out the video that YouTube is recommending to you right now. But until next time, keep enjoying your magic, stay a hobbyist at heart, and I will see you guys in the next video.